Hi people, how are you? All good? 5 years ago in autumn, our protagonist stopped going out of the house because he was harassed at school. Poor guy, the protagonist lost all hope and lived aimlessly. It was then that one day while he was looking at his cell phone he was teleported, yes, out of nowhere, and he met this blonde girl which congratulates him since after having evaluated him thoroughly she selected him so that he can reincarnate. Wow, I didn't expect that. To which the protagonist reacts like, what? Reincarnate? Are you serious? Apparently he died in that room. The waifu explains that in this new world, magic is everything of the world. That's why the protagonist will receive great powers, so that he can live comfortably. So the blonde tells him to wait to enjoy this second chance at life. Our protagonist is not going to miss this opportunity, so he takes the opportunity to ask for something. He asks for a good life, and quiet, since like the otaku warrior gamer, he would like to see anime and play until he falls asleep without worrying about anything more than that, since he loves that lifestyle. After saying that, our protagonist is reincarnated, and I plan to use the great powers he was told to live in the world he wants. When he opens his eyes, he realizes he is a baby. The king is told that a boy was born and that he is healthy. The king asks his wife what she thinks, to which she replies that he is a beautiful prince. And when he sees that he has the royal emblem on his left chest, the king says that he is undoubtedly his son. So the mother was like, of course, who else would it be if not? At that moment, they do a magic test to Haruto through a magic ball. The one who holds the magic ball asks what will be his mana level, and says that the princess and he defeated the Dark Lord, so he is sure that it should be level 50 at least. However, it turns out that it is only level 2, it also does not have any element, and can only use protective magic. The king wonders how this is possible, so he is surprised that a useless son of the princess of this and today the king, so he thinks that his subjects will be outraged at such a situation. His wife thinks exactly the same, and hearing this to the prota does not like at all. At that moment both parents came to the same conclusion, to say that Prince Reinhardt died during childbirth. So the prota was like, wait, what? I'm going to die and not reincarnate? Who holds the crystal ball asks if this is not too much. But the king orders to take the baby to a distant forest and leave him. Meanwhile, the blonde who reincarnated the protagonist was watching everything. She is very distressed, asking herself what to do. Since she tells a partner that the boy who reincarnated gave him a lot of power, but no one knows. Since the devices in that world only show 2 digits. Also, he forgot to give him an element, and when his partner asks him what level he gave him, it turns out that he gave him level 1002. The prototype abandoned in the forest tries to move, but he can't because he's a baby. He knows he's in trouble, but he remembered that they told him that he can use protection magic, so it's a good time to try. Thanks to his imagination, our protagonist formed a cube, and after achieving it, he says that who would have imagined that it is so simple. The protagonist realizes that he can do more things and change all kinds of shapes. It seems that his only limit is imagination. Thanks to his powers, the prota can move a little, but for his bad luck, at that moment a red fox appeared out of nowhere. So our protagonist starts a battle. But this is not working, since the attacks of the prota do not do much damage to him. The prota tries with something bigger, so he throws some trees at him. This was more effective, but the red fox still wanted to fight. Given the situation, our prota will try with something bigger, but this was so big that even the fox began to speak, since he says that he gives up. Hearing that he gives up, our protagonist starts to dialogue. The fox tells him that he wanted to eat him to be able to recover his mana, and that he had no idea that he would be so strong. So the fox asks our protagonist who the hell is. The protagonist tries to communicate, but he cannot, since as a baby he did not learn to speak yet. But he came up with an idea, since he wants to create a barrier that converts everything he thinks into sound. This really worked, since thanks to this the protagonist began to speak. Our protagonist introduces himself to the fox as Haruto. He tells him that he was born in a distant kingdom, but that he was abandoned by the little mana he has. The fox asks him what he means, since he can see that the protagonist emanates more mana than any human being. So he asks him if it is the reincarnation of the Dark Lord. The protagonist remembers that in his previous life he was a ninny, that is, he did not study or work, so he thinks that if he discovers that he is defenseless, he will finish him. So he takes advantage of this situation, and tells him that in effect he is the Dark Lord. When he hears this, the fox admits his defeat and asks Haruto to eliminate him. Haruto tells him that that would be too much and that he will forgive him if he does not attack him again. So in that case, the flame sorcerer Fenrir swears to keep the promise of not attacking. Our prota calls him Fly, and at that moment our prota says goodbye and wants to leave. But when the prota was about to leave, Fly stopped him, since he tells him that he forgave him life and gave him a new name. So Fly says that his pact has been forged, so he swears to dedicate himself to him. If he even has a teacher and all the paranoia. Haruto tried to explain that he did not want to make any pact, but in that out of nowhere Haruto falls, since it turns out that he has a problem that cannot be solved with magic, and that is that like every baby, he takes care of the milk. So to see if it works, he asked Fly, and Fly accepted without hesitation, and out of nowhere Fly changes shape, and becomes the red-haired waifu. After meeting Fly human version, she tells Haruto that she heard that someone is approaching, so he asks if he attacks him. Hurdle says no and that they are going to try to talk. Fly goes to ask the subject what he is doing here. The man with armor tells him that he came to look for that baby. Fly tells him that he refuses, so this subject asks him what right he has to say that. Fly tells him that he is going to tell him, and tells him that recently the baby became his lord, so he tells him that this child is from a relative of his, and says that even if they have abandoned him, he came to rescue him. Fly asks him why he comes back for something that they abandoned, so he says that he will never understand human. The subject answers that they have something called compassion, and says that in addition, I assure you that the child is hungry, so he brings breast milk. Seeing this, the Prota obviously gets excited quickly and tells Fly to accept, and since Fly can't produce the breast milk, he'll have to accept. But at first she's denying it, and asks him why he cares so much about the child. The guy answers that it's for something personal. He tells him that his wife got pregnant once. However, the child he was carrying never saw the light of day. The guy says that they abandoned the child because of his lack of potential, but that doesn't matter. And he says that everyone deserves to know the goodness of life. It comes, everyone. When he hears the story of the subject, Fly is moved. He starts crying and everything. The subject offers to make Fly a deal and tells him that if he so much wants the deal to be his master, then he can take her to be his assistant, and asks him what he thinks, and due to the circumstances, Fly accepts, so he agrees to go with the subject to take care of Haruto. It is as if after making the deal, they broke the crib in which the baby was, and the subject threw a little of, well, let's say it's ketchup, and well, this makes it so that they think that the baby really left with God. While they were walking, Haruto asks Fly for milk, but she tells him that he will only drink milk from his own, and that's how 9 years passed, and Haruto managed to survive thanks to the Count of Gold. So thanks to the Count of Gold he has a family and even a little sister, and the initial plan of the Prota was to leave as soon as he left the lactation. But they have been so good with the Prota that he cannot help but stay. The only thing that worries him is that this girl hates him, and even though she hates the Prota, on the other hand she loves Fly, so Haruto asks why. The girl asks Fly if he is going to play with her today. But Fly tells him that he can't, and that he has the great task of taking care of the little man. I mean, Haruto. Haruto tells Fly to play with her. So in that case, Fly agrees to play. So they were playing happily. While through the window, Haruto was watching. At that moment, his adoptive mother appears. And she tells him not to let the situation affect her. Haruto says it doesn't affect her, but her mother says it doesn't seem so. And her mother thinks that Charlotte is very shy with him, because she doesn't know how to behave with a boy her age. And the mother gives him the example of how well he gets along with another girl like Fly. But inside the protagonist is thinking, if maybe Charlotte has realized that she is actually almost 30 years old. So after thinking about this possibility, the protagonist gets very sad, as he thinks that the girls do not want to see the old men. His mother, when she sees this situation, tells him to stop being so dramatic, and asks him how about if he prepares something special for him, as he tells him that if he shows him the good brother that surely he will change his behavior. In addition, his mother tells him that he is the heir to his beloved country, so she tells him that instead of staying in his room, why don't you go out with her to play? In his room, Haruto thinks that it's time to become independent, and he knows that if he does, Fly would come with him, but he knows that if that happens, surely Charlotte will hate him even more. However, if he leaves Fly here, Haruto thinks that Fly can do something crazy, but on the other hand he thinks that if he stays in the house they will do everything to him, so the protagonist asks his clone what he thinks. Oh, why didn't I tell you? But to prepare his march for these 9 years, the protagonist studied the magic of protection to create a robot that is his copy. But the protagonist cannot make his robot move, and in that he thinks that if he wants to leave without anyone getting sad, then he will have to make a copy of Fly. Just at that moment, his father called Haruto, so Haruto doesn't like how it sounds. His father tells him that from now on he will teach him to handle the sword. And Gold tells him that since he has very little mana, he has to develop other skills. Or he asks him if there is anything else that interests him. Haruto almost tells him that he would like to stay in his room locked up all day watching anime and playing the little bear. But to divert the question, he told him that he likes to study ancient magic. His father tells him that the reality is that he believed he was doing nothing, but when he heard this he tells him that he had everything planned. So Haruto tells him that he should continue investigating, so he was trying to leave his room. However, his father does not let him go, and tells him that he may have talent with the sword, so he tells him that he has to try it. Haruto thinks he has no chance, since his father is a warrior with experience known as the Destroyer. Haruto does not want his father to hurt him, so he creates a barrier to compensate for his physical condition, and after doing that he goes into attack in devil mode. But Haruto breaks the sword he was wearing, since he forgot to put the barrier on the sword. Seeing this, the father was freaking out, and tells Haruto that he is going to stop in time, but that he tries to dodge this attack. So the father attacks him, but Haruto took a good jump and dodged it. His father tells him that someone with less than level 30 could not dodge that. So the Proto was like, oh yeah? And honestly, the Proto has also felt something strange, since for a while he had hopes that his mana level was more than 100. And since it is said that level 77 is the highest level of any human being, the Proto thinks that he cannot have more than 1000, if he knew he has 1002. And Haruto thinks that his lack of element allows him to use magic effectively, so he wonders if being one of the powers that the goddess gave him. After seeing the potential of his son, Gold tells him that they will continue training to turn him into a great swordsman. One night while Gold was working, he tells his wife that he started teaching Haruto how to use the sword. And Gold tells his wife that he believes that Haruto is a returned demon, since the records of the royal family speak of a man who was born with demons. So Gold says that, for weird reasons, there are people born with demonic traits. His wife says that, even if that's true, Haruto doesn't have horns or a tail. However, it's said that the royal emblem has powers that are unknown, and Gaul says that maybe that's the key to why Fly treats Haruto like that. For his part, his wife wants to believe that Haruto is a normal boy, and that's all. Gaul tells his wife that he's just like her and that whatever happens, they will make his son have a happy life. Haruto locks the lever in his room, thinks that dad is very busy lately, although that is better for him because that way he does not give more classes of screaming. In that, Haruto hears that someone is asking to bring gas and antiseptics. He wonders what is happening since there is a lot of noise outside. So he uses his magic to see what is happening. Since thanks to that he does not even have to leave the room, and it turns out that there are many wounded soldiers in the garden. Haruto went to see his father, and asks him what happened. His father tells him that he had been keeping it a secret, but that the thieves had been attacking him, so they received information and went to his base, but they ambushed them from behind, although they were cautious and prepared. So his father is sad because he promised them that he would finish them, but they ended up like this. So he thinks it's very humiliating because there are several soldiers that are injured and others that have even more serious injuries. His father tells Haruto that seeing this at his age must be scary, so he asks him to go back inside the house. The sequence made Haruto angry, and more for a comment that Flay made because Flay was like, defeated by some thieves. That blow is useless. So Haruto went to Flay and said, Flay, shut up. After saying that, Haruto went to heal all the soldiers one by one using his magic, and as all were healed, suddenly Gold asks himself, what's going on here? One night Haruto was sleeping, but in that he goes out to the corridor, and he meets Flay, who was standing there all this time. When he sees this, Haruto realizes that she was waiting for him for what he said. Haruto explains that he was angry before, so he apologizes and tells him that he can talk. Before the apology, Fly tells him that he thinks she offended him, so he apologizes. Haruto asked Fly to accompany him for a moment, since he has a plan, because first he wants to find the attackers of his father and his men, and Haruto, when he sees them, thinks that although they look like thieves, they are normal soldiers. Fly asks Haruto if he does not think that the enemy was aware of what they would do, so Haruto wonders if there will be a spy. But well, Haruto decides that they will finish everyone, so Haruto flew away with Fly, but when he returns he will have problems since Charlotte saw them through the window. Meanwhile, those who attacked the father of the Proto were celebrating, but this guy says it's still too early to celebrate, since he says that in the end Cole escaped them, and he also says that he wants to get rid of him quickly to be able to go home. Just at that moment, our Proto arrived and used magic to the guys so they can't move. And since they can't move, the Proto is going to question them. After the interrogation, the Proto got the data that they are soldiers of the neighboring empire. They infiltrated the kingdom as thieves, with the intention of creating internal chaos. Flay asks what is supposed to be there should be guards at the border, but this guy answers that they had an accomplice. Haruto thinks that to do that you have to have more influence than his father. So our protagonist wonders if there will be someone in the kingdom who wants to kill him. And after finishing questioning them completely, Haruto asks Fly to reduce ashes to this fortress. And although they tried to shield themselves by saying that they only followed orders, Haruto replies that he is not interested in his personal situation, since he tells him that in the end they ambushed his father and that he cannot forgive them. So after saying that, they are reduced to ashes. After doing the return, Haruto tells Fly that he did a good job. And Haruto doesn't know much about soldiers or conflicts between countries, but he thinks that if they started, then it will be implacable. And to explain the situation, Haruto thinks that for a moment he will send an anonymous letter to his father, explaining this to him. Moments later, they tell Gull that they have confirmed that there are no thieves as the letter says. Knowing all the data, Gull asks how the border guard could allow this. So he says that they will have to open an investigation to know what's going on. And Gull already imagined that they were not normal thieves. But if the Empire is involved, Gull thinks that what he feared the most is happening. At that moment, Charlotte asks her father who defeated the bad guys. Gull wonders who it was, because that lack of compassion and fire control all points to a person, and Gold knows that person is Fly, because his strength is greater than his. When he heard this, Charlotte ran out and tells his father that he just remembered that he has to go, and his father tells him before he leaves that if he is going to play outside, that he goes with someone to accompany him when leaving his father's office. Charlotte remembered how she saw that Fly and the Proto were flying around, so Charlotte asks him who is Haruto. Charlotte goes with Fly and tells him that he has a question, so she asks him if there are two Harutos. Fly answers him that what is he saying, and asks him if he is okay. Charlotte tells him that the truth is that last night she saw someone like them flying, and she knows that Haruto does not have enough mana to fly, so she went to his room to check it, and when she entered his room, Haruto was inside sleeping. But let's remember that this is the robot that Haruto leaves. However, he says that this time he did not feel the aura so fearsome that he has. So Charlotte asks what could have happened. And knowing that Charlotte can feel the power of the prototype, Fly tells her that she is very impressed and tells her that what she perceived is nothing more than the extraordinary mana of Haruto, and tells her that as a child Haruto was blessed with an immeasurable power, and he says that it exceeds any limit imagined by humans. So he says that he has so much power that not even a demon like her could overcome it. So he says that in short, Haruto is that wonderful. Charlotte asks him if he knows what Haruto is really. Fly says yes, but he can't tell him. In that, Fly tells him that he will not grow as he should if he worries about such trivial thing. Fly obviously tells him everything that happened to Haruto. Knowing everything, Haruto will create some surveillance barriers that will make an alarm sound depending on what Charlotte does and her location. And in that, Fly asks him why there are two Harutos. To which Haruto replies that he does not worry. One night, the protagonist pretends to go to the bathroom and realizes that Charlotte is following him. He knew that Charlotte would do this, so the brother asks if he should face her and ask her why she is watching him. So at that moment the brother decides to do it and turns around, but when he tries to talk to Charlotte, she runs away, and Charlotte followed his level of vigilance to the extreme, since she followed Haruto to the bathroom on the second day. Charlotte was very close, and on the third day too, and so on several days, and for the seventh day while they ate, Haruto is informed that his mother and Charlotte will go on a trip, since at this time there is a festival, and normally they usually go to Gold, but this year they will go. Haruto tells him that in that case, they take Flay, and since lately his mother does not see Flay, he asks Haruto if he has her doing errands. And the reality is that yes, since Haruto asked Flay to befriend the monsters so that they do not attack. The Proto was in his room, but the alarm of the barrier that put Charlotte started to sound, and here everything is going to rot. While the mother of Charlotte and Haruto were traveling, they were attacked, so the soldiers who were with them give everything to protect them. The Imperial soldiers try to capture them. They used magic, and all the paranoia, so they managed to hurt the mother of Haruto. Just at that moment someone started to guide Charlotte where she had to go. So she started to give directions to her mother, and they got to a point where there was a ravine. But Charlotte tells her mother to jump, and her mother trusts that she ends up jumping. But after the jump her mother ran out of mana, so they can't continue. Charlotte tells him that there is little left, so he tells him that there they can hide. That's how they got to this cave. His mother tells Charlotte that she will find who is guiding her, and that it should not be so far. His mother tells him that she does not know who it will be, but that for sure it is a hero. Charlotte does not want his mother to go, but his mother tells him to be calm, and that she will make sure that he is safe. However, Charlotte insisted that he do not go after leaving the cave. The mother realized that in the cave there is illusory magic, and she knows that this is very advanced magic. To her bad luck at that moment the soldiers arrived, and when they found only the mother, they say that the girl must be close, so they order to go to look for her. For her part, her mother thinks that she cannot allow her to be taken as a prisoner, so at that moment that Haruto arrived. Haruto was very angry, so he sends the soldiers to Fly. Returning with Charlotte, she was very scared, but Haruto enters the cave and tells her that her mother is alive. He warns Charlotte that her mother is unconscious, so he asks her to take care of her. He also tells her that if she waits a little, they will come to rescue her, so he tells her to wait a little longer. However, Charlotte was very scared by the aura that Haruto emanates, but she thinks that still saved his life. So at that moment Charlotte takes courage and asks Haruto if he is a hero, and inside Haruto was thinking, wow, my first talk with my sister is making me nervous. so he thinks that questions so absurd is too much for his brain. However, Haruto decides that he will follow the current, so he says yes. That he is a hero justice. When he hears this, Charlotte tells him that he knew it, and that he knew he had powers to fight the bad guys, and he also tells him that his mom told him that the hero is a judge and punishes the bad guys, so Charlotte gets closer to Haruto. And he wonders how he could be so stupid all this time, so he tells him that he was wrong with him. Here Haruto tells him that he has to keep the secret, and that no one can know it. Charlotte accepts, and even tells him that in that case he will also lie to his dad. After this conversation, Haruto tells his sister that he is going to take care of the outsiders. At the end of the day, Gold received a letter, in which they told him that his wife and Charlotte are safe, and that Flay met them and is accompanying them, and that all the injured bodyguards were healed there. Hearing this, Gold says that he would like to thank whoever saved them, but he knows that he does not want to reveal his identity, so he asks Haruto what he thinks. Haruto replies that if they behave well, he will surely follow his side. And as Charlotte told Gol that he was a hero, Gol says that they will wait and see what happens. Something that Haruto says that he will surely take care of the soldiers who pretend to be thieves. So when he says this so confident, his father asks him how he knows they were soldiers. Haruto tells him that it is assumed that thieves are dedicated to stealing, and that if they attacked Mom, then they would be soldiers. So to divert the subject a bit, Haruto says that he finds it strange and that he thought the border was guarded, so he wonders how they got in. Thanks to this, he diverts the subject of conversation, since his father wonders if they have infiltrated before they reinforce security, or if he helped them, some of his own. Haruto replies to his father that he had to do that, so his father tells him that sometimes it is hard for him to believe that he is only 9 years old, and in that his father says that slut finally gives the faith. But the protagonist did not give him time to think what his father said, since just at that moment Charlotte and the others arrived. And this time Charlotte ran out to hug to Haruto, and tells him that he misses him a lot. This surprises his mother, and says that since when they get along so well, and Charlotte was acting so strange that her parents they were speechless. But Charlotte says that now she loves Haruto a lot, and as now Charlotte loves him, the protagonist thinks that in the end, everything went well. But for his part, Flacey was even getting jealous, and everything Charlotte went to look for Haruto. Since she asked him to play with him, Haruto answers that he hit him before entering, so she hugs him happily, and tells him that next time he will do it. Since that day when she told him that he was a hero, Charlotte enters his room almost daily. And it's the same as when she hated him, but now she doesn't know how to do it so that he doesn't get so close to him. Although the prota doesn't bother him, since deep down he relaxes him, because he feels like he's caressing an animal. In that, Charlotte asks the prota, "What is that?" To which Haruto tells him that it is magic of surveillance. Charlotte asks him if he is referring to ancient magic, to which the prota, so that he does not ask more questions, tells him that yes. And inside, Haruto was like, "It's true. I forgot that I told Dad that I was studying ancient magic." Haruto tells Charlotte that it's a bit hard to study because he's lost and there's nothing of her. However, Charlotte says that there is, in the library of the castle. So Charlotte tells him to take him there. When he arrives at the library, Haruto says that he didn't know that there was a place like that. In that, Charlotte went to get Haruto a few books. So there was the protagonist studying ancient magic, accompanied by Charlotte. And when he reads the data, he thinks that his barriers may have something related to ancient magic. Charlotte tells him that there are many theories about ancient magic, but that this is the most interesting. The protagonist is surprised that Charlotte has read this book, because it is full of complicated words. But she tells him that Mama is Fly, and they helped her understand it. But Charlotte tells Haruto that she would like him to read it. So Haruto has no choice but to do it. So there the protag was reading it, and in that he reads that there are gods that can travel between worlds. So he thinks that he has already seen this in an anime. And in that he remembers that he has not seen an anime for a long time. And that is the only complaint that our protagonist has of this world. Charlotte asks him what kind of stories he has in those animes. Haruto tells him that he's going to take a while to explain it to him, and tells him that he doesn't think he's going to understand them. Charlotte tells him not to say that, and that he will pay close attention. So Haruto, as a good otaku, proceeds to talk to him about anime. Seeing that Charlotte didn't say anything, Haruto thinks that for a moment he let himself be carried away and talked too much. So he thinks that Charlotte is going to think that he is a weirdo. However, Charlotte is very excited, saying that it is a very mysterious magic, and that he would love to see it since he had told her that the drawings move and all the paranoia. So Haruto decides to do everything he can so that Charlotte can see some anime. 2 weeks later, Haruto put in motion his plan. And to save the details, basically Haruto made a connection with modern internet, and how he did it you will be asking questions of the script. Haruto realized that his subscription was still active, so he thinks to create a children's story for Charlotte on the screen. Haruto shows his sister many animes and tells her to choose the one she wants to see. Charlotte chose an anime where there was a blonde, and when she saw the anime, she thought it was incredible, and she was really excited. But there is a problem for Charlotte, since she has no idea of what they are saying in the anime. And Haruto realizes that it is true since Charlotte does not know Japanese. So Charlotte asks him to teach her Japanese. Haruto knows that learning a language is very hard, although he also thinks that at 5 years old he learns very fast. So he decides that he is going to teach her Japanese. And here Haruto is surprised, since Charlotte had a great advance in just 2 hours. Since in just 2 hours you already know characters that are studied in elementary school, so the brother wonders what they give to the children of this world. 2 weeks later, Charlotte entered Haruto's room, asking him to continue letting him watch an anime, since he was hooked on a series. And at this point Charlotte has been watching anime for 2 weeks, and in just 2 weeks he learned Japanese by watching anime and already mastered the language. So he wonders if Charlotte will be a genius. So Haruto thinks that in that case he should not let him watch so much anime. But he looks so happy watching it. However, Haruto also thinks that he is his brother and that he has to be strict after finishing an episode. Charlotte wanted to put the following. Haruto tells her that he can't watch the whole season at once, and Akane tells him that he can only watch TV 3 hours a day. Charlotte asks why. Haruto answers that because it is not healthy for children. Charlotte answers that she feels good. However, Haruto tells her that he doesn't care and that he can't, and since it's dinner time, Haruto tells her that they have to go. But Charlotte got sad once at dinner. Charlotte was very sleepy. Her father says that lately Charlotte spends a lot of time with Haruto, so her father asks what they do so much. Charlotte replies that they study ancient magic. Her mother finds this wonderful, but she tells Haruto to make sure to watch her so that Charlotte does not pass. Some time later, Haruto tells Charlotte that there will be no anime today, so he tells her that she should bathe and go to bed early. So Charlotte obeys, but she leaves very sad. In the end, Charlotte listened to Haruto, so she went to bathe and then said goodbye to go to sleep. However, when Haruto realized, Charlotte was sleeping with him. The next day, his father informs his family that he is going to kill those thieves, so they tell him to be careful. When his father left, Charlotte was very sad and worried about his father. But Haruto tells her not to worry and that those thieves were normal people, so he tells her that Dad can fix himself. Charlotte asks why they became thieves. Haruto tells her that Dad said that there is a certain power struggle in the kingdom. So Charlotte asks if there is no way that everyone can live happily, and that is what everyone wants, but it is not as easy as it seems. Charlotte asks him if not even for him and tells him if it is not enough to go and attack them, so Charlotte tells him that he should use his powers for that when he hears it. Haruto wonders what series he got that, but Charlotte asks him for a favor, so Haruto ends up accepting. So she super excited asks the protagonist to transform for her, so Haruto thinks that at this point Charlotte must believe that the prota is an anime character to follow the game to his sister. Haruto put on a disguise and this seemed incredible to her. Charlotte is so excited that she wants to accompany Haruto to fight, but Haruto says no, so she obviously gets sad, but she gives him a screen so he can see his feats. Once Haruto left, he thinks that this has become a big problem, but that he has to do it for Charlotte. When he finds the thieves, the first thing he does is block their escape. And once he blocked their escape, he could leave them like that. But he knows that Charlotte wants to see him in action. So the prota goes to the thieves and tells them that the hero of justice is here. So after saying that, the prota starts fighting the thieves, and obviously he beats them up and ends up defeating everyone. And just at that moment, his father arrived, wondering who was there. After seeing this whole sequence, Gol knows that it doesn't look like an internal fight, so he asks him if he defeated them alone. Haruto wonders what to do since he doesn't know what to say. Gol introduces himself to the mysterious subject and asks him what his name is. Haruto thinks he has to stay on the roll, so he will follow the usual. So Haruto tells him his name is, and since he couldn't think of anything, he said, still on the job. Gol asks him if he is the one who saved his wife and daughter. Haruto replies that he doesn't remember, so Gol asks him if at least he can tell him what his goal is. Haruto replies that his goal is justice, that he is the justice, and that he comes to protect, preserve and impart justice. So after saying this, Haruto flies away. At the end of the day, Haruto got home very tired, but Charlotte was very excited for everything he saw, so she asks him when he is going to come out again. So in the end, Haruto kept fighting over and over again until he was known as the Dark Knight, and so the alter ego of the protagonist was born, and he became the hero of Charlotte. One morning, Haruto gets happy, since his robot is finally finished, since he can move and even talk. And the protagonist is so happy with this, since his robot looks too much like him. However, just at that moment, Charlotte wakes up, and realizes that there are two Harutos, so Charlotte was wondering which one is his, but the two Harutos answer that none is his. In that, Fly knocks on the door, and tells Haruto that it is time to go, so Haruto asks his robot if he can replace him, to which his robot tells him that he does not want to. The Gold family had the visit of Princess Marion and Prince Laius. But the prince is arrogant and tells Gold that it was that tone that he used with him, since he tells him that he is the prince, the future king. Before this, Gold apologizes, but Marion does not like this, so he tells Laius to stop and that he is not behaving as he should when he sees him. Haruto thinks that he is the typical prince, so he wonders how he can be so stupid. Laius, when he sees the protagonist, asks if this is the trash of level 2 that they adopted in an orphanage, so Laius tells him that he is going to give him some lessons, so Laius challenges Haruto to a duel. This will be a duel with a sword, and Haruto wondered how he ended up in this mess. Laius tells him to breathe calmly and that he will be careful, and since Laius is so confident, Haruto goes to see what his level is. When he checks it, Haruto realizes that it is a level 9 of a maximum of 40, and remember that Charlotte told him that the best sage in this world was at level 77. Laius started an attack, but Haruto dodged it easily, and since Haruto realized that this was going to be too easy, he decided to pretend that he was losing, and while Laius was hitting him on the floor, he asks Haruto why he doesn't counterattack, and the Proto, when he hears this and knows that he thinks it's good that he counterattack, he does it, so the Proto quickly moves and hits him from behind. However, the Proto exceeded a little, since with a single blow he sent Liu's to the ground. This made Liu's angry, so he went with everything. But he ended up on the ground several times again. Liu's sister asks if the Proto is really level 2, since he says he has to use a very advanced technique to move that fast. Gaul replies that he doesn't even know for sure, since he himself says he doesn't know. So Gaul says he believes him and accepts him as he said. Since Laius was angry, he decided to use fire magic, but Haruto evaporated his attack instantly, so he kept attacking and attacking and attacking, but none of his attacks worked. Laius is surprised that Haruto has absorbed his magic, but Haruto tells him that it is because of his magic. Laius replies that in level 2 you cannot use such advanced magic, and as he used fireballs, Haruto asks if he returns them all at once. And at that moment Haruto took out a giant fireball, so Laius had no choice but to kneel and surrender. After this, Haruto thinks that it is finally over, so he wants to go to his room to rest, and when he was about to leave, Mariana apologizes to him for the insolence of her brother. Haruto tells her to calm down and not to apologize for him. She asks him if he really is at level 2. Haruto answers that he is, and in that Haruto says goodbye. And as he wants to go to his room, while walking down the hall, Haruto thinks that it is true, the capital knows that he is at level 2. And he wonders if his biological parents have been watching him, although as they got rid of the protagonist as if nothing, he thinks that it cannot be the case. Charlotte is watching a patrol fleet and tells Haruto that he found suspicious people, and it is that lately Charlotte is getting used to these patrols, and because of this, Haruto has been very busy. In that Fly enters, and tells him that Charlotte told him that he is going out alone, so Fly came to offer help, so he tells him to let him go with him to the mission. Haruto asks Fly if she was not very busy. Fly tells him not to worry about her, and that he finished all his gardening tasks and subduing monsters today. In that, Charlotte, all excited, says that it will not be that Fly is going to join forces with Haruto, since Charlotte says that in stories, when the hero is in a hurry, his partner saves him. And Haruto's partner is Fly. And as Fly followed the current to Charlotte, and they were already heavy, Haruto had no choice. Haruto went to where the thieves were and introduces himself as the Dark Knight, since that's how they were calling him in the neighborhood. But the Dark Knight this time is not alone, since he comes with his companion, the Knight Karmasi. Flay got so excited that he was about to reduce the Assassins to everyone, and as he was having so much fun attacking, the Prota had to stop her. Flay was going to go even further, so the Prota stopped her, and reminds him that he had told him that he did not want explicit violence. Flay says he already knows, but that anyone who messes with him is his enemy. Once they came back, Haruto was exhausted. However, Charlotte tells him that Fly and he were incredible, and that they looked like a comic duo. However, Fly says that even so, she attacked with all her strength, but something got in the way and she couldn't do anything. So Fly was already thinking about a next time. Haruto said there wouldn't be a next time, but Charlotte says she wants to see her next performance, and this far from the protagonist, because seeing Charlotte so happy encourages her to continue working with Fly. So Haruto was wondering when he could live quietly without leaving home. Laius was very angry thinking about how he could go through this, since he says he is the future king and son of the Princess of Stelio, so he wanted to make it clear to Haruto, so he wonders if he was not supposed to have a miserable level 2 at that moment. They warn Laius that it is time for the food and tell him that for tomorrow's visit he asks Charlotte to accompany him. Laius wondered why that mucus, to which they answer that they think he will enjoy his company. Laius says he doesn't need it, but here they tell him that they do it for his own good, so Laius ends up secting. Charlotte and the Haruto clone entered his room, as they brought him food, which looked very good. The truth, Haruto realizes that his clone is watching him, and his super angry clone tells him how he dared to send him to eat that food. He also tells him that they are the same person and that he must know everything he suffered. Haruto says yes and that he could not have. His clone rebels and says that he is fed up with everything and that he forces him to do what he does not want. So he asks him what is for him. So the sad clone throws himself in bed. Charlotte says that the other Haruto looks sad, and she says that at least he will be for the visit tomorrow. Haruto asks her why she will go, to which Charlotte replies that because the prince invited her. Hearing this, Haruto knows that he has no choice, so he decides that he will also go. Later, Haruto thinks that if Charlotte is going to go, he should make sure everything, so he checks the route of the visit and see that everything is clear. However, in that he finds some hooded men, which is obvious that they are invoking something, so Haruto decides to go take a look. When he arrives, Haruto asks the hooded men what they are doing here, so they are surprised and ask him who he is. Haruto replies that he has only passed through here, and Haruto tried to talk to them but he could not, since at that moment the hooded men became very violent. Haruto decides that in that case he will not have compassion, so he ends them, and at that moment the hooded ones make their summon, and here they summon some skeleton knights. The priest surprises them since he says that it is the first time he sees them, and that in the video games they are not so bad but in real life they are scary. Haruto, as expected, easily kills the skeleton knights, oh well, more or less. Since as they are skeletons they are rebuilt again, and they all go to the attack. And as the skeletons did not stop to rebuild, the Protoss was wondering what to do in that he realizes some red things that shine on their chest, so thanks to that the Protoss began to control the skeleton. So he sent them to attack the hooded ones in that they also summon a golem, which is very bad, and they use the golem to defend themselves from the skeletons, and this golem is so strong that it gave a good punch to the Protoss. Haruto wonders how he could defeat the golem, and in that, he realized that he also has something in his chest, so Haruto launches an attack directly to the chest, and thanks to that the golem stopped moving and everything, and out of nowhere Haruto began to control the golem. One of the hooded ones wonders why the golem attacks them so suddenly, to which Haruto tells him that it is his fault since as he tried to stop him with a barrier he modified it with magic, in that Haruto asks which of the hooded ones is the boss, and none wanted to say anything, so Naruto tied them all up and interrogated them one by one, but they did not answer his questions. So Naruto wondered what to do. He did not have a better idea than to bury them alive, so Naruto puts pressure on them and says that either they tell the truth or they are going to be buried alive. All the men were suffering while the captain was tied up, and in that the captain began to speak. He confesses that he is from the personal summoning unit of the Queen Consort, and tells him that they were preparing to attack the visit of tomorrow with summoned beasts. And when he hears that it is the Queen Consort, the queen of his kingdom, Haruto wonders why and asks what he is looking for. He tells him that his goal is to eliminate Charlotte. Haruto wonders why the queen goes after Charlotte's light. Soon they answer him that his magic may surpass that of the queen in the future, so the queen fears that if God supports her, the kingdom could be divided in two. So he tells her that they tried to use imperial soldiers but they failed, so that's why the queen sent her personal unit. In that, the Proto recaps, realizes that he controlled the soldiers and made them attack his father. Then, he also tried to kill his mother and Charlotte. So with this date, the Proto now understands everything. And that reminds him that the same thing happened when he was abandoned. So Haruto thinks that woman is capable of everything to save herself. This makes Haruto angry, and says that he will pay for this. And for a moment Haruto got so angry that the golem almost goes crazy. Since we remember that he is controlling him with his magic, Haruto thinks that he will not allow anyone to take away the people he loves, not even if that person is his biological mother. At the end of the day, Haruto accompanied Charlotte, in that Charlotte tells Prince Laius that she is not sad for having lost against Haruto, and Charlotte tells him that she had no chance, and tells him that he should be proud of having challenged him. Laius' sister supports Charlotte and says she's right, so she tells him not to be ashamed of losing. Haruto tries to stop her, so he tells them to stop that. But Laius, angry, tells Haruto that he doesn't want her to be mad at him. In addition, Laius tells Haruto that he doesn't use magic, so he asks him what the hell he did. Haruto tells him that it is better to be strong when you tell yourself. Hearing this, the two brothers react surprised, asking if he's serious, and this seems strange to him, because he thinks his parents were not surprised when he explained them. In that Ayuz asks him if he is a returned demon. Haruto was wondering what a returned demon is. Charlotte tells him that when a demon and a human get married, on rare occasions their children show demonic features. And the truth is that the returned demons have a lot of physical ability and large mana reserves. But Haruto has no strings. In addition, the ears and eyes are normal, so it is unlikely. Charlotte says that Haruto has very soft and shiny skin. Charlotte tells her that she can assure her that she bathes with him. When he heard that he bathes with his sister, the other two brothers were surprised, so Haruto inside was thinking that he should say that it was not his idea. Charlotte wondered what's wrong with this. Laius tells him that he would not say that it is so bad and tells him that nobody does it now. In addition, Laius's sister says that when a man and a woman get naked, it has another meaning. So he tells her to do it to have offspring. Haruto tried to calm Marion down a bit, but just at that moment they arrived. When they arrived, they saw a field of wheat, and Charlotte was playing very happy. In that, Haruto asks his father if he has a moment. His father asks him what he wants. Haruto tells him that he has some questions. Haruto tells his father to get in this hypothetical situation. So he asks him what he would do if the queen wanted to kill Charlotte. This question surprised the father, so Haruto apologizes for asking such a weird question. The father tells him that he does not have to apologize and that it seems that he feels that something is happening, since he tells him that last night he received another letter from the Dark Knight and that when he followed his instructions, he discovered that the queen's magicians had been eliminated. His father knows perfectly that the queen saw him as her enemy, but Galt did not expect him to want to kill Charlotte, so his father tells him that this woman wants to annihilate them completely, but she is the queen of the kingdom, so they cannot take retaliation. Haruto thinks that he would like a queen as cruel as she disappeared, so Galt tells him to be careful with what he wants, and tells him that on the other hand without her the capital would be chaos. Haruto wonders why Galt tells him that it is a sad story, since King Yield fell a long time ago and many nobles would disinherit the throne, so the queen with luck keeps them at bay. In short, his death would cause a civil war. His father also tells him that 2 years before he was born, an army led by the king wanted to kill the Dark Lord, and that Isolot was in that army, and it is said that she cut her head off to the Dark Lord, so she ended up being a heroine and was known as the Princess of Estello. Then he married the king, so people supported him and his popularity rose like the foam, and now the Princess of Estello is trying to stay with the kingdom. Haruto, when he hears this, thinks that he did not know that he had so much influence, since he has not investigated anything because he did not want to know anything about his parents, but Haruto thinks that was a mistake. Although the father says that if someone strong appeared to replace the princess, that would be something else. So Jiruto tells him that then why not make him the king? His father replies that he knows nothing about politics and that he is not made for the position. But his father says he knows someone, although he is still very young. So his father wants to wait until he reaches the age of majority, since his father says that he is a person who will surely someday be able to lead this kingdom, and that he also has unparalleled skills, but he still does not realize it. However, Gaul knows that he will easily surpass the Princess of Stelio in magic, so his father tells him that now that he has heard all this, he will know what to expect from him. So his father asks him if he will do it, to which Haruto responds that of course, and Haruto knows that he has to protect Charlotte until she grows up and becomes the queen, so that when he does, he can retire and rest without having to leave the house. For his part, Fly tells Haruto to let him bring the head of the queen with luck, so he tells him that he will avenge his lord for his previous life. Haruto says no, and that this matter is his thing, so Haruto says that if he does not eliminate her, it will mean nothing, and Haruto knows that surely that woman will get involved again, so he can't think just about protecting Charlotte. So our protagonist thinks it's time for mother and son to meet for the first time in a decade.